Welcome, everyone, to a huge episode of the Media Row podcast. I'm your host, Justin Miller. As always, a huge thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in each and every week. Make sure, if you haven't yet, to click that subscribe button. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts and wherever you like to social media at Media Row Pod. It takes you about 2 seconds, and it makes our entire year. So we greatly appreciate that. Also, need to give a huge thank you to our sponsor and Kelly's Little Nipper. They've been with us from day one, and we just want to make sure you guys get out and check out everything Kelly's Little Nipper has to offer at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Use that keyword in Woodley, and your first drink is on the house, courtesy of Kelly's Little Nipper and the Media Row podcast. Huge show. We have Drake women's basketball to recap. We have Drake men's basketball to preview as they tip off against UAB tonight. We have probably the biggest non-conference game in Iowa State history as they travel to face the number one team in the country in the Purdue Boilermakers. And then we're finishing up with our conference championship preview and predictions. Should be a lot of fun today. Hope you enjoy it. Let's jump right in. Starting with the Drake women, as we were at the Knapp Center Wednesday during kids game, so we definitely had the earbuds in, but a very, very difficult game, tough game for the Drake women. They lose their sixth straight game on the year. They fall to 1-6 as they lose to Lindenwood 68-52, and Lindenwood isn't a bad team by any means. This was a team that was projected first in the Ohio Valley Conference. They lost 76-63 to Baylor, kept up with Baylor on the road, and they're 7-2 on this season. They are a good team, but you can't help but feel that that is a team Drake should beat, especially at home. So did some digging, and the 1-6 start for Drake is the worst start since 1990-91. A couple of things with that 1990 season that I found interesting. One, it was Lisa Bluter's first season as Drake's head coach. They started off 0-8, but when I bring up just the first 3 games Drake had to play, you're going to kind of understand why a brand new head coach, a brand new staff, brand new roster would struggle. Because they had to start off against North Carolina State, number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament that season. You had the Iowa Hawkeyes, who would go on to be a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. They had Kansas, who was a 20-plus win team that year. So no wonder why Bluter struggled. But in 2025, this team at home just continues to struggle with consistency, miscommunication, and you could see the frustration, actually. I think, in the past few games, you've seen this Drake team struggle, and they really just continue to battle through it. In that first half, it was the first time I was really seeing players get frustrated. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think you can use that in a way to improve and use that in a way to motivate. But no wonder why they were frustrated. In that first half, Drake really struggled. 29% from the field, 21% from the three-point line, and 11 turnovers. A lot of them were unforced, where it's just bad passes into the post player, bad passes into the cutter, and a lot of frustration going into halftime. But if there's one thing that Coach Pullman has proven to be great at time in, time out, is the halftime adjustments. This team, go back to Thanksgiving, where they're playing Arkansas. Arkansas takes control of that game early on and doesn't appear to be letting up. Drake goes into halftime, and they make that a one-score game at one point, and really, down to the wire, make Arkansas earn it. She has been incredible at her halftime adjustments. And we saw that happen again, where the third quarter, Drake appeared that they were going to make this comeback, cut the lead down to 5 in that third quarter. They outscored the Lions 23-17, and you were starting to see all this momentum shift over to the Drake side of things. Then I saw probably one of the craziest shots I've ever seen. Lindenwood fires off a shot with about 2 seconds to go from their own free throw line. So what, like a 70-foot shot? Heave it, and as the buzzer sounds, nail the shot. And right then, all the momentum that Drake had been building and working towards of regathering in that third quarter, out. Flipped right back over to Lindenwood. And you felt the air escape out of the Knapp Center, players hanging their heads for Drake. Just a difficult sight. And it would be tough. It would be tough mentally as a player to see that and be like, what are we supposed to do? What do you want me to do with that? I'm not going to jump up and try to block a shot when someone's heaving it at the buzzer from their own free throw line. But Drake came out cold in the fourth, wasn't able to take advantage of that strong third quarter. They lose that quarter 18-8 and end up losing the game by double digits, 68-52, to fall to 1-6. So to get into the issues that we are seeing in these first 7 games with Coach Pullman and this team, yes, it's the worst start since 1990, but Drake's non-conference has always been difficult. I mean, when you're having to play Iowa and Iowa State, who are consistently in the top 25, you're going to have a tough non-con to try to battle through. And losing 5 straight games at the start of the year and still going on to have a really successful season isn't rare for Drake. Because look at last year. They lost 5 in a row and they still went on to adjust and become one of the top dogs in the Valley, competing with Belmont and Murray State for that title spot. The biggest difference for this year's team is their biggest preseason concern. At the start of the year, what was the biggest question on everyone's mind? Who is going to fill the offensive gap that Katie Dinnebier is leaving? Since 2016, Drake has always had an offensive player that could really create their own opportunities. Becca Hittner, Caitlin Ingle, Katie Dinnebier, Grace Berg, just as a few names that pop into mind. This year, Drake is really struggling to find that consistent shooter. I think they have players that could grow into that spot. Abby Alsma is a player that I've praised a lot on this show. I think she's really talented. But it's finding the consistency so that the highs and lows aren't so drastic with this team. That's going to be Pullman's biggest challenge this year. And now I think Drake has the opportunity and has the staff, has the roster to really flip this year around. I think it is important to note this is a very young team. You're going to see these kinds of struggles. It's not rare for a young team to start off slow and to have these miscommunication issues that we're seeing. That's not rare. But it's just time to adjust. And you're seeing Pullman try to figure it out, changing the starting lineups, changing the rotations during the game. And sign me up. If Pullman can be so great at making these 15-minute halftime adjustments, then yes, I believe she can adjust throughout a whole season. It's just going to be now Drake, a team that offense was so good these last 10 years of being able to rely on a player to make their own opportunities. Now it's going to be, how is this offense going to be successful and be a top dog in the Valley during conference play as a whole unit? And that's going to be a huge challenge. But Drake will have their opportunity to flip this year around at home on Sunday, 2 o'clock against Western Illinois. Staying with the Drake Bulldogs, but moving over to the men's side of things as UAB comes into the Knapp Center tonight at 6:30 to tip off against the Bulldogs in what has the possibility to be a really exciting and intense non-conference game. UAB and Drake both come into this one with a 6-3 record. Both come in winning 4 of their last 5. ESPN slightly is favoring UAB, in that like projection matchmaker thing on the side when you click on the game. It has UAB at a 50.3% chance to win and Drake 49.7%. Even the experts believe this is going to be a toss-up and a close game. And it's because of how these teams match up. It really feels like on paper when you're looking at these teams, you see, where does UAB struggle? Well, that's where Drake actually excels, and vice versa. So that's why it's going to be a really fun game. But to preview UAB first, they were projected top 5 in the American Conference. They have not yet won a game on the road, so they're trying to break out of that struggle. But the biggest thing that concerns me tonight for the Drake Bulldogs is UAB's ability to guard the perimeter. Sure, I know Drake just had a program record-setting night where they hit 19 threes. That was against Western Illinois. It was all great. I loved it. I am concerned with the defense that UAB has and with how Drake has come out slow. We'll get to where I think Drake will be able to have some key moments that could lead them to a victory against UAB. But that is the biggest thing that I starred when looking at this UAB team is they're forcing opponents to shoot 29% from beyond the arc. Good for second in the American Conference. And this is a Drake team that outside of that Western Illinois game has struggled to connect from the deep ball consistently. Another big concern with UAB is their rebounding ability. UAB, despite only having 2 players over the height of 6'8", they are first in the American Conference, averaging 44 rebounds a game. This is where Drake has to prove it. Drake has to take advantage of their size. Drake has 4 players, they really only play 3, that are over 6'8". And Federico's athletic ability and versatility. I mean, Isaiah Carr should be getting better each and every game. And I think freshman Griffin Goodberry has been incredible in these last few weeks. So you get those guys just really starting to buy in and let them just take over. And if they can just win the rebounding battle, that gives me so much confidence in Drake tonight. What also gives me confidence in the Bulldogs, though, is the possibility of Owen Larson returning. Talked with Coach Henderson. He brought up, man, it really feels like if we had a game today, he would be able to play. And he said that on Tuesday night's game. And he kind of mentioned, hopefully he's there against UAB. But he's still listed as day-to-day. I think if Owen Larson plays tonight, he is going to add so much and impact this offense in a really special way since this offense is starting to click. The last few games, this offense is not looking like the offense that lost to Robert Morris in overtime. This is a team that is starting to really come together. And the stat that points that out the best is the assist numbers. Drake, in their last 4 or 5 games where they've won the last 4, is averaging 19 assists with only 8 turnovers. They've had 93 total assists during this stretch. But on top of that, you add in that Jayshon Thomas and Jalen Quinn are starting to really heat up and become X factors offensively for the Bulldogs. Holy cow. We could have a major flip of a season. Jalen Quinn, he has had 6 straight games of 10-plus points. Jayshon Thomas, who a few weeks ago we were talking about, man, just hasn't been able to find the bottom of the hoop. He has now 4 straight games of 10-plus points. This team is really starting to gel together, and you're starting to see it. You get Owen Larson in, who is already familiar with that Henderson style of offense, what he envisions this offense to look like, as he was the only player coming from South Dakota State that was coached by Henderson. This offense could turn into something special with the versatility and if they can get consistent from behind the 3. So my keys, the first 2 are what we've been saying all season long. Utilize your size, win that rebounding game, and hopefully win the paint game. Really focused in on the rebounding numbers though tonight. Secondly, get off to a quick start. That hasn't been as big of a concern as it had been earlier in the season. Against LSU, kind of started off slow, but man, against Georgia Tech, played a full 40 minutes, and against Western Illinois, definitely played a full 40 minutes. So just continue to get that offense gelling together. The most important key I have, and that I think will combat the main concern I have with UAB, is the inside-out game has to get going. When Drake has success, it is because Jalen Quinn is driving to the hoop and kicking it out to his shooters. It is because Jayshon Thomas is able to get to the hoop. It's because Federico is able to get to the hoop. This offense is built for players to get to the hoop. If it's open, make the layup. And if players' defenses come in, kick it out to a shooter and nail it. That is what this offense is built on. It's a lot easier said than done to guard it. So when you have a UAB team that is really talented at guarding the perimeter, that's how you attack it. So that's my biggest key for Drake. If they're able to get the inside-out game going offensively, I like their chances tonight at home to hopefully improve to 7-3. Now let's get to the biggest game in the state on the basketball court as the Iowa State Cyclones take on the number one team in the country, the Purdue Boilermakers. You have great teams, great coaches, and huge expectations. So first and foremost, I sent a few messages out to a few of the Cyclone contacts that I have that, here I am sounding like Adam Schefter, but it's just the people that are the closest to that program that I was able to build relationships during the time at KASI, and just asking them the biggest asked question of, will Lipsy start? Will Taman play on Saturday? Because we're hearing a lot of day-to-day. That's what we heard from TJ. That's how we still listed. A lot of them are feeling he should play. A lot of them are hopeful that he will play Saturday. Now, does that change my prediction for this game? We'll have to wait and see. So to start off, the Cyclones are coming off a huge record-setting performance on Wednesday as they dominated Alcorn State. Here are the 4 Division I records they break. I know it's Wednesday, but it's so fun to talk about these stats. First team to score 130 plus, make 20 plus threes, shoot 70% from the field and 3-point line all in one game. Just proving to fans, hey, when everything clicks, this is the team you're going to get. Also, we're without our star guard in Lipsy. Also, here's how good our depth is and how good our bench can be. So a really promising night in terms of looking forward into the future if you're a Cyclone fan, in my opinion. I don't think it really changes much for this year because you knew your team was a top 10 team and could really play with anyone. And I think they will be able to play with Purdue. It's just the biggest thing Iowa State has to do. They must do this, is cause turnovers. I mean, for every game, forcing turnovers is the biggest thing for Iowa State. But this one in particular, when you go back and you look at what Purdue has done this season against top competition, against ranked opponents, they've played Bama, they've played Texas Tech, beat them both. Different outcomes in those games. I mean, they won, but in different fashions, where Bama, they struggled. That game was back and forth. Against Texas Tech, they couldn't miss a shot, took over. But the one common factor in those games, Purdue really struggled to control the ball. They had 11 turnovers against Texas Tech. They were just hopeful and thankful that their offense was so dominant that night where Texas Tech couldn't really take advantage of those 11 turnovers. Turn the ball over 11 times against Iowa State, with or without Lipsy. I think this team is talented enough to hold their own and make you pay for those 11 turnovers. Bama forced 10 turnovers. What's the biggest argument against Bama? The biggest factor that keeps people from picking them as national champions? They don't have a defense. They're all offense. They forced 10 turnovers against a really solid team in Purdue. So that gives me more confidence for Iowa State's defense because I think TJ has had one of the best defenses in the country for the last 4 years. And if they can force turnovers and make Purdue pay, they're going to have a chance in this game, with or without Lipsy. The other thing I want to add in, though, and this has been Purdue's trump card for the last 10 years, is their size. I mean, 5 players over 6'9". You add in the ability to have the best point guard in the country, Braden Smith. So you have 5 guys over 6'9" who can pick and roll and Smith can dump down to. I mean, just a deadly duo. Deadly duo. But Iowa State, with Tamin Lipsy, hopefully playing on Saturday, selfishly want to see him play just because I want to see the best guard matchup in the country. Cyclone fans want to see him play because he's a leader on and off the court. Thing is, Lipsy against St. John's was good. He's been really good. I don't want to take anything away. He hasn't been great, though. And for Iowa State to beat Purdue, Iowa State's going to need to play great. And I am still concerned about the depth. I'm concerned about if Lipsy's 100% or not. And all those, even though I think this will be a really close game, they're just enough to push me towards Purdue, where I believe Purdue wins this game. And I don't think it really harms Iowa State. If they keep it close, I mean, they lose, depending on what happens, in the rest of the basketball world, they're not going to drop that far. And they're going to have plenty of opportunities to jump back up into the top 10 national contender conversations with how good and deep the Big 12 is. So even if Iowa State loses this game, if they keep it close, no reason to panic if you're a Cyclone fan. But I do think Purdue gets the best of the Cyclones on Saturday. All right, time to finish up with our conference championship predictions. Starting off with the Big Ten title, number 1 Ohio State going up against the number 2 team in the country, Indiana, 12-0 versus 12-0. This is a must-win game, not for either of these teams to get into the college football playoff. We know they're in the college football playoff, but you want that bye week. You want that bye week because you've come this far, you might as well get it. Because if you lose, you don't get anything now. All you get is a home first round game, and it just makes the playoffs even harder. Let's start with Ohio State. They won 4 straight Big Ten titles and then have been without the conference crown since 2020. Then you have Indiana, a team that is 12-0, a team that is breaking school record after school record and is led by a Heisman hopeful quarterback as well. While the Hoosiers are the story of the year, the team of the year is the Buckeyes. No one has threatened Ohio State. No one has come close to slowing down this team. They have basically handled everything, every challenge with ease, with dominance. And Indiana, they physically imposed their will against Oregon on the road. That was impressive. But they struggled against a bad Penn State team. They struggled on the road against an okay Iowa team. Ohio State hasn't shown any signs of weakness like that. And Ohio State's defense is better than all of those teams combined. And that's why Ohio State wins. I like Kurt Cignetti a lot. I think the Indiana story is really cool. I trust Ohio State more. So give me Ohio State winning the Big Ten title for the first time in 5 years. Should be a lot of fun. We're definitely going to have our eye on that one. Moving on to the SEC title as Bama versus Georgia kickoff. It's been Bama and Georgia, I feel like, every year I mean, I know last year Texas was in it, but every year, Bama, Georgia. And I'm picking Bama simply because they have to win, right? They have to win this game. If Bama loses, they're out of the college football playoff. And then you're going to hear, coaching hot seat. Now, my gut is picking Bama. So trust your gut. I'm taking Bama. My heart really wants to take Georgia because, man, if you're Georgia, one, you're going in with revenge. They broke your home winning streak, your rival, the team that every year you circle, every team you expect, like the fans, to face in the SEC title game. So what better way to get your revenge than to beat them in the SEC title game and kick them out of the college football playoff? My gut says that doesn't happen because there's just too much on the line for Bama. My heart, though, it's trying to pull me to pick Georgia, but I think Bama gets it done. And then we have the Big 12 title game between BYU and Texas Tech. Texas Tech has been solid all year long. They are a really talented team. I mean, they're top 5 for a reason. I'm picking the Red Raiders, though, simply because the BYU one-dimensional offense, where I feel like they rely on that run so much that if Texas Tech's strong defense, the defense that we saw take down Houston and really play well throughout the entirety of the season, if that defense shows up and BYU can't get the running game going, I mean, I think their backs against the wall. They haven't shown me that ability to make those adjustments, to change it up in the passing game like you would want to see if you're a BYU fan. So I like Texas Tech to win this one. And then to finish up ACC, this one, just give me Duke. Give me Duke because of the chaos. And also, to be honest, I haven't watched enough of these teams to really know. I remember seeing Virginia in that double overtime victory against Florida State. But other than that, I don't know a lot about these teams. Give me Duke because of the chaos and because I really don't care, to be honest. The other 3 conference championships are going to be 1,000 times better. So those are my bowl game previews and projections. But that will do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you on Monday for a brand new episode of the Media Row podcast, where we will recap all of the college football, basketball action that happens over the weekend. We will see you then on Monday.